thepascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal.
What's up? We got some things to talk about revolving around the Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf case. And I'm telling you right now, I'm just going to say it because there's been a lot of talk about this situation that we're about to talk about here in a second. And I have to say, how is this even necessary? Why are we bringing this back up? That's the initial question I have for this story and for this situation that we're about to talk about. Because let's be real. We already know that the room is split. We already know there's a lot of people that feel some type of way about this particular case. And we already know how people feel about Austin Metcalf's father showing up to the Karmelo Anthony family's press conference. And of course, we already know that he was asked several times, apparently politely, to leave. And we knew that he refused to leave. Now, I get it. Optically, that could look really, really bad. But also at the same time, we don't know the full reason on why he wanted to be there. Or at least when he was asked at that time, all he said was no. There was no follow-up to the no. He didn't say, oh, I'm here to be, stand in solidarity with the other family. I'm here to tell them that I forgave their son, or try to bridge the gap or whatever it may be, which, by the way, if that was the case, that would have been unprecedented in any press conference ever. I'm just going to be real. And I would have loved to have seen that, to see two families come together and find a way to forgive, right? But that's not what the people want. Let me keep it a bean, y'all. That's not what the people want. People want carnage. People want absolute chaos in the streets and all of that. And of course, I'm hoping that it doesn't transpire to that place. But one thing's for sure. The spokesperson for the Karmelo Anthony family, Dominique Alexanders, he spoke out recently and he takes jabs at the father of Austin Metcalf, which, by the way, this is why I started the video with, why is he bringing this up? Like I said, this was something that people were moving on from this situation. Literally, we were moving on. There was plenty of other conversations and other things to be up in arms about and all that. But nonetheless, Dominique Alexanders brings the conversation back into the group chat all over again by putting out a statement, which I'm going to share with you guys here. And of course, we need to get into this. And of course, he did a video on this. We're going to take a look at a very short clip of this. But again, this clearly has angered Austin Metcalf's father to the point where he's calling him some names. Jeff Metcalf is calling Dominique Alexanders some names here. And again, for me, I'm like, can we just duke this out in court? Can we just have the evidence, find out if it was self-defense or not, and keep it moving so that we can find out what his verdict is, if he's going to spend the rest of his natural life behind bars or if he's going to get out in a couple years? Because I honestly think that he's going to catch some years. I don't think he's just going to walk out unscathed. But at the same time, I could be wrong. We don't know the facts. We have not seen the evidence. And I think we should do that. Wait for the evidence. But like I said, some people are thinking some things about this, and we're going to talk about what their theories are as well. So let's take a look at this. It's almost like he unearthed this issue, you know what I mean, all over again, and I just don't think it was necessary. But I can see some points in what he's saying here. I know some of y'all are going to be like, oh, boo, boo. But I see both sides of the spectrum here. I see both sides of the situation. And I think a lot of things could have been done or handled differently if there was conversation and communication throughout that little situation before the press conference. But let's get into this. So he says, more than a week and a half ago, the Next Generation Action Network hosted a press conference at our headquarters to give support to the Anthony family. Since then, there has been a wave of misinformation and false claims spread online about what actually took place. Now, obviously, there's so much misinformation going on, so much, as some of y'all would say, fake news out here in these streets, that I feel like this thing that happened at the press conference is literally not even the first thing on the list to address as far as the fake BS that's been out here. Okay. And there has been a lot of other things that have been true. So again, being able to comb through the BS first of, the Anthony family spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on cars and houses and going on spending sprees and stuff like that. Those kind of things I think are really important to address before this, in my personal opinion. But of course, yes, this is important to talk about as well. But we could have moved on from this and focused on the trial as well. But you get what I'm saying. Let's just continue on. All right. Today, I want to clear that up. Here's a video of me personally explaining what really happened during that press conference. I apologize for the delayed response. Our team has been deeply engaged in the current legislative session at the Texas House, and that has made it difficult to respond as quickly as we'd like. But the truth matters, and now I'm taking the time to lay out the facts. Now, some people are looking at this and going, man, you could have laid this out when it first came out. Why are you deciding several days later to come out and talk about it now? Some people believe that he's trying to, spark some energy back towards their Give, Send, Go account. But like I said, don't know. I don't know. I'm not this family. I am not Dominique. But it is an interesting claim to have out here. Take a look at this, okay? Continuing on. This was a private event held on private property, which is important information to know. And hopefully that is true, that it was on private property. If that's the case, then this could be a different situation. If this was on public property, hey, the father has every right to stand there, right? But if it was private property, that's a different conversation as well. And we're just talking about technicalities here. All right, let's continue on. So it was held on private property, designed to support the Anthony family through a deeply difficult time. Unfortunately, the press conference was delayed over 40 minutes due to the uninvited arrival of Mr. Jeffrey Metcalf, the father of Austin Metcalf. Our staff, along with plainclothes Dallas police officers, were already at our headquarters for precautionary reasons, approached Mr. Metcalf several times and respectfully asked him to leave. He refused. In fact, we did not even know who he was until a member of the media pointed him out. Once we realized who he was, we made additional requests for him to step out. Still, he refused. Interesting. Now, and we saw that on camera. When we watched this live, the press conference and everything, we watched that stuff go down live, and we were all, me at least, I was clutching my pearls like, woo, what is going on here? Why is he here? If he's here to try to bridge the gap and try to find some sort of unity between these families that are both grieving in their own right, this will be unprecedented. But the fact that police went up to him, asked him to leave, and he was refusing to, yeah, it looked weird. It made people very concerned. I understand that part. I do. And I get it. Other people say you should have just let him stay there. Hey, if there was full conversation, if he was able to fully explain what he had to say or fully explain why he wanted to be there and saying, hey, pat me down. I'm not, I don't have any weapons on me. I'm not a dangerous person. I will not even peep a word. I just want to be here and showing some support with the family in this situation. Then maybe this will be a different turnout. But there was no communication on that part, and that's for sure. But moving on, it wasn't until uniformed officers were called that he chose to walk out on his own. Some have claimed he came to pray or in peace, but the reality is, he ignored multiple requests, disrupted a private press event, and created a tense environment around an already sensitive matter. And while we understand that emotions run high, this is a pending criminal case, and it was entirely inappropriate for any interaction between families to occur. Now, here's the thing. Now, when it comes to this, there was no, from what we understand so far, at least up to this moment of this press conference, there were no court orders. There wasn't any restraining orders of any kind. So if he wanted to be at the same local area as the family, it wouldn't be breaking any rules or violating any type of court order. So, like I said, if he was able to go in there and talk to them and speak to them and explain to them why he was there fully, maybe this would be a different turnout. Or maybe they still ask him to leave. But at the same time, if they asked him to leave, he should have just said yes or should have just said okay and left, right? But moving on. Being in pain does not give anyone the right to show up unannounced and refuse to respect the boundaries of a space that wasn't theirs to enter. Interesting. Now, I understand private property. If it was public property, this would be a completely different conversation. I am quite curious if he's actually telling the truth on whether or not this is actually private property. Okay. But nonetheless, I get where they're coming from. All right. To a certain extent. All right. But moving on, NGAN has been doing their work for over 10 years. And of course, he's got to do some sort of plug to Next Generation Action Network. But anyway, in that time, we've learned that part of our job is not just to react after something happens. It's to make sure things don't happen in the first place. That's what our staff tried to do, respectfully and firmly. We did our part to prevent escalation, and we stand by our team and our decisions. Thank you, everyone who continues to stand with us in our mission for truth, justice, and community protection. And of course, it was signed by Minister Dominique Alexander. Now, here's the thing. Of course, we got to look at this video. It's a short clip, but still at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, I keep wondering, why bring this up again? The conversation, if you know what I mean, we live in this world where the news cycle moves every 5 seconds. If you don't talk about something immediately, it becomes old news in 15 minutes. Literally. That's just kind of the world that we live in. So in my mind, I'm going, okay, I get that he wanted to say this. I get what he's trying to say here. But I feel like he could have said this 15 minutes ago. You see what I'm saying? It's a little late. And I'm wondering why he's bringing this up. But let's continue on, because it just seems like, why go after the grieving father in a way? You know what I'm saying? There's a certain level of trying to have some semblance of understanding of a person that's in grief, okay? That's grieving, especially somebody who just lost their son. I just keep thinking that, I don't know, I know this particular situation is multi-layered, but I truly believe that this could have been approached in a completely different way. I think this should have been a more personal conversation, not a public statement to the world, because I feel like this only stokes the flames. And I also think that this is not the best look for the spokesperson of a kid who is trying to say that this is self-defense. And like I said, until we know everything, this is what he's claiming. It's just a claim until evidence is presented. But like I said, this is a conversation I feel like he could have reached out to the Anthony family or reached out to the Metcalf family personally, rather than approaching it via publicly in this way. And I can see why some people are looking at this and going, oh, he's doing this to ruffle some feathers and maybe get some monies for the give, send, go. I don't know, but I can see that angle. I can understand why that angle's out there. But let's continue on.
This was not an attack on him, but we felt it was very disrespectful on how he came about it, and how we, even before you even knew it was a thing, we were asking him repeatedly to leave. And literally, he wouldn't even talk. He wouldn't even say anything. He felt like he could just stand there. That's not right. It was very upsetting to me. It's not right. Because if you're coming here for, I heard somebody say he was coming there for prayer. He was coming there to come and hug. Well, that wasn't the spirit that we got. There were more than 12, 15 people. Even the media came and approached him.
Now, I will say this. I agree on this part. Sorry, guys, but I do. You got somebody coming up to him, several people, especially security, asking him politely, can you please leave? And him just blatantly saying no. And like I said, if what is being claimed is true and he didn't say nothing to back that up, and he just said, no, I'm not leaving. Yeah, that's going to give off a certain vibe, guys. And, also, I'm just throwing it out here. All right, respectfully. And I know I'm going to ruffle a few feathers by even asking this, but what if the tables were turned and the press conference was actually a press conference for the Metcalf family and Karmelo Anthony's father just shows up? Private property as well, same scenario. But this time it's Karmelo Anthony's father that wants to be in the room. Wouldn't there be a reaction of some sort? Wouldn't there be a little bit of concern? Wondering, hey, what's this guy doing here? Why is the father here? Even if the father was there for peace, love, and happiness, rainbows and dandelions. If he's not explaining that, that's going to make people feel some type of way. That's going to get people a little nervous. And I think that's understandable. That part I understand for sure. But let's continue on because there's more that he says in here.
Even DPD plainclothes officers approached him before the uniformed officers even arrived. So at the end of the day, we felt like he was coming in peace. Well, that's a hell of a way of coming in peace. By when someone's approaching you and asking you to step back because you're in a secure lane, they don't even know who you is. You could have been a person of CBS 11 or anything. If he would have just stepped back with the security, when the security asked him to, hell, the media probably wouldn't even notice that he was there. It was because of the confrontation of the security person telling him to move back that the media even noticed him because he had shades and a sling that they have never saw him in. I don't know this man. I've never saw him a day in my life.
Now, here's the thing. This is the part that I have a problem with because I'm going to have to hit this button. I'm sorry. Really? You don't even know who this person is? Like you don't? Think about this for a second. You are the face of a high profile, you're the spokesperson, I'm sorry, of a high profile case. You are the spokesperson for the family of a massive case. He took the life of somebody. You didn't see not one video, not one interview of the victim's family, not once. Do you know how many interviews that the Metcalfs have done? They've done several. So in a way, I go, wait a second. Are you sure you didn't see? You sure you didn't know who he was? Are you sure about that? Are you sure you just wanted him to leave? And it was just that gut reaction, that guttural reaction of like, no, he's not supposed to be here. What the hell is he doing here? The fact that you're saying that you don't even know who this person is, to me, it feels like, are you properly vetted for this case? In fact, I know for a fact that this gentleman here can't even say Austin Metcalf's last name correctly. That's a big problem. If you're going to go after a case, you got to look at it like you are, especially if you're a spokesperson for a case, you got to go after it like you are the lawyer for that case too. You should know everything. You should know every bit that you can, because if you are the spokesperson for that family or for that particular assailant or alleged person, you should be able to answer questions or no questions to answer and no questions not to answer, and especially know the ins and outs of the case in the first place. Because you'd see in some of these interviews, Austin Metcalf's dad, Jeff, is wearing a sling. He had shoulder surgery a little bit ago, and he's still healing. So you'd see him with the sling on. Sure, the shades were weird. The shades were definitely, it makes him a little sus, a little inconspicuous. Makes you feel a little weird, but at the same time, the fact that you are saying that you don't know who the guy is, that's mind-blowing to me. Because at first I'd be like, wait a second, is that who I think it is? Just saying. What if you're walking down the street and let's just say it was Jeff Metcalf and he's not a nice guy? Maybe he has not forgiven Karmelo for what he has done. What if you're walking down the street with Karmelo and he just walks right up? You want to make sure you know who the people are revolving around that case. I'm just saying that's just point blank. That's point blank 101 information right there. That's just okay. Basic knowledge for a case. Especially if you're the spokesperson. I'm just sorry. I don't mean to ride him on this, but that's a big problem in my personal opinion. Let me continue.
So I didn't point him out and say, oh, he got to go. I didn't even know who he was. And so this rush to judgment, these attacks on our organization, the attacks on me or whatever it may be, man, keep them going, right? I'm built for that, okay?
Now, of course, he goes on and talks about other things in the video. Of course, they've been going after him with his rap sheet and everything. And I'm telling you, that rap sheet is lengthy. I will say that. It is very lengthy. And do I think he should be the one representing the family of Karmelo Anthony, representing Karmelo Anthony with this whole thing? I don't think it's the greatest look. I will say that. But at the same time, if that's who they chose to have as their spokesperson, that's who they chose. But I feel like what's being said here is unnecessary. Honestly, I think is absolutely unnecessary. So much that it's really angered the father of Austin Metcalf. Jeff Metcalf had to come out and he had to say something. I get him saying something because in my personal opinion, like I said, this is, I feel, not necessary to bring up. But like I said, the video was done. The statement was made. And it was pretty much made Jeff Metcalf feel some type of way. So let's take a look at this. He says, Jeff Metcalf says this, at least get your story factual. I was never asked to leave by anyone or refused to leave when asked. That's interesting. So he's calling, wow, y'all. So he's calling Dominique a liar right now because he's like, whoa, get your story straight. I was never asked to leave by anyone or refused to leave when asked. I only left peacefully after the first time I was asked to leave. But I will say this, though. There was reports on the news. I'm telling you right now, I heard it. We heard it in the live stream that he was asked multiple times. Yeah, he's been asked to leave, but he's refusing to leave, everybody. That's why there's a delay. That's literally what they said on the news live while we were waiting for this press conference. So this is very interesting. So whoever gave him that information may be lying. And that's interesting. So I only left peacefully after the first time I was asked to leave. You don't have the intestinal fortitude to even look me in the eye, but will gaslight me after I'm gone. Your rap sheet speaks volumes of your character. Who is the true victim here? My dead son? You are a race hustler looking for your 15 minutes of fame to plug your company on your infomercial called a press conference. Have mercy. I mean, I'm going to be real. He ain't wrong with the whole thing about him. He's always going NGAN. You know what I mean? He's always promoting that. If you saw the post before we saw the video, he has a tendency, it's definitely a pattern here of him promoting NGAN, NGAN, NGAN. So that's interesting. Damn, you a race hustler. Woo! Okay, you couldn't even pronounce his name correctly. He's talking about his son. Okay, you are a disgrace to the human race. Ay, chihuahua, shots fired. Okay, this is absolutely crazy. But again, like I said, I get why the dad is angry. Because again, if what Jeff Metcalf is saying is true, he's basically calling Dominique Alexander a bold-faced liar and saying that everything that just happened, that he said happened, according to Dominique, never happened. Now, we heard on the news, literally we did. Go back and check out my live. We hear the reporters say there's a delay because they're asking him to leave and he's refusing to leave. We all reacted to that. We were all shook about that. And so now it's a question of, is the news lying about this too and trying to make Jeff Metcalf look like a monster? Or is Dominique lying? Or is Jeff lying about this? That's a question I'd like to have answered as well. But like I said, guys, I mean, I get it. You know, I wouldn't want this being brought up over and over and over again. Again, this is a very sad situation on so many levels. And you got a grieving father, you got a grieving family, you got grieving families on both sides. Real talk. There's no need. There's no need for this to be brought back up and trying to, you know, do whatever the hell he's trying to accomplish by bringing this conversation back up. Like I said, some people are thinking that he's saying that so that he can rev up the money, okay, get the money train moving on the Give, Send, Go account. Honestly, I don't know. I do feel like maybe he feels like his 15 minutes of fame is starting to dwindle out. So he's like, oh, well, this is controversial and this just recently happened and I haven't gotten a chance to talk about it. So let me talk about it right now. And I feel like it's too late for him to bring that up. Personally, it'd be a different story. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it'd be a different story if he was in an interview with somebody else and that person asked the question about the incident that happened at that press conference. Then he'd have full license to say whatever the hell he wants. But he actually independently turned on the cameras, put up a post, edited a video, and put all that out there for everyone to watch and consume. It's a very interesting situation. But like I said, why? What's the reason behind it? What say you guys on this situation? My heart goes out to the families. Real talk. Like, we need to find peace. We need to find, I feel, diplomatic spokespersons that can handle the situation without stirring the pot and making things even more crazy out here in these internet streets, because that's what we need. Less chaos in the streets, in the comment sections. We need someone or some people who can actually keep everything at a good low hum before the trial actually happens. But like I said, you know, if they choose someone like Dominique or choose anyone else, that's their prerogative, I guess. But like I said, what say you guys? Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button down below. Crush that subscribe button. We'll talk here soon. There's more coming out, y'all. We got so much to talk about. Diggity damn. We got so much to talk about. I'll be talking to you guys soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.
Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild.